Well, as I'm filming this right now, it is January 31st, so that means it's the last day of January. The end of January 2018 is finally upon us. And so even though I haven't reviewed all the movies I've seen, and I haven't seen all the movies from January, it's time to do the best and worst of January 2018. And we'll start with the best. So again, bear in mind, this is not the complete list. I haven't seen all the movies I want to see from January. In fact, there are about 11 movies that are in my radar that I haven't seen because either they haven't come to any of my theaters, I haven't been able to find any of them, or just haven't had the time to watch them. Not only that, a few of these movies on my list could alternate and switch positions when I eventually rewatch them when they come out on DVD. Because sometimes you need a little bit of time away from the movie to see it again, to see if it holds up. Sometimes opinions can change after seeing a movie a few more times. Now, a few movies that are in my radar that I haven't seen that possibly could have made this list are Django, Hanson and the Beast, The Polka King, Mary and the Witch's Flower, Mom and Dad, which looks over the top and crazy and has Nicolas Cage in it, so that could be good, or at least entertaining. Please Stand By, and Like Me, which, like me, I'm a little iffy on, because I've seen the trailer, it looks like a crazy, trippy art house film, and usually that can go one of two ways. Or at least judging from the type of movie that it seems from the trailer, it could be a movie that I absolutely love or absolutely hate. So, I don't know, maybe we have another Dark Knight situation on our hands with Like Me. Who knows? And The Final Year, which I haven't seen a trailer for at all. I just I'll put this on my radar. Maybe I'll see it, maybe I won't. Who knows? But I have seen 14 movies from January 2018 so far, and honestly, 10 of them are good. 2 more are pretty good. There's only one movie that I think is truly bad this year so far. Alright, we're going to kick off the list with Proud Mary as my number 10 because I found it enjoyable. Yes, it's a generic action film. It has a lot of things that are borrowed from other, more superior films, such as Leon the Professional, but ultimately the acting was okay, and the action was handled nice, especially towards the end when it almost felt a little like John Wick. Again, not in the same level of John Wick, but it has its moments where it's fluid, it's nice, it's brutal, it's decent. And I found that the drama involved with her wanting to raise this kid and look after him was pretty effective. Now, I love me a Liam Neeson action movie, and this year we got one as The Commuter. And The Commuter is my number 9. I found it to be a pretty solid action thriller mystery, which does feel a little like Nonstop, but enough to hold its own. Even though the characters were one-dimensional and a lot of flat characters, well, acting was decent, and all the pieces to the mystery fit in this film. The CGI wasn't that great. The action, when it is in the movie, is pretty awesome, especially this fight scene on a train, and the camera work can sometimes be really great and stylish, while other times look completely terrible. My number 8 is a film that kind of came out of nowhere. Never heard about this until I started looking it up because I was looking up movie releases in January. My number 8 is The Strange Ones. And I gotta tell you, it's not for everyone. And there are moments of this that almost feel like It Comes at Night, but very different from It Comes at Night. This isn't a horror movie, and it's hard to call it a thriller because it's more of a suspenseful thing about how we as the audience is learning about the past of these really strange people that are supposedly going on a camping trip. Who are supposedly brothers, but as we soon realize, they're not brothers at all, and there could be some pedophilia involved. Like I said, this is a strange movie. But it is one that I was entertained by, one that I really wanted to see how this all played out. And for the most part, it's great. The ending, the last scene, I can't stand, but the journey up to that is really engaging. Now my number 7 I haven't reviewed yet, and I was hoping that this could be another 999 because I liked 999. I felt like I was one of the only ones that liked it. And I thought this was great too. Not as good as 999 in my opinion, but it works where it counts. It is Den of Thieves for my number 7. I haven't reviewed this yet, so I'm not going to talk about it too much. The action, when it is in there, is great. I like the whole heist scenario of this movie. I liked all the characters involved, or at least the acting for most of the people. Now there are people that say this is a rehash of Heat, which this may shock a bunch of people. I have yet to see Heat, but keep in mind I will probably see Heat just so I can see if it really does compare to Heat. And then maybe I can see that before I eventually review Den of Thieves. And maybe my score will change and maybe it'll place in a different spot. But for now, my number 7 is Den of Thieves. My number 6 is another movie that surprised me because I didn't know what to expect going into it. And it was a pretty decent high school drama that worked, and I loved the ending. It is Bling. And it's the second film I saw this year that deals with an older person with a romance of a younger person, which is probably not age appropriate. This time a student obsessed with a teacher. Actually, both films revolving around possible pedophilia all revolved around the younger person being obsessed with the older person. Huh. But anyway, I like this. I like the characters. I like the whole chain reactions of all the characters' actions leading up to the climax of the film. And I thought there was a good antagonist as our main bitchy punk girl. And ultimately, I do feel that this movie is trying to have a more complex story that tries to show that the blame of certain situations can't be put on one person. That's probably why the movie's called Bling. My number 5 is another movie that I haven't reviewed yet because I had recently seen this movie in the last week of January. Actually, it was the last movie I've seen so far. It is Hostels. I liked it. It was a really good Western, a lot of complexity to the story where it's trying to deal with soldiers that may have done some crazy battles with Indians and really hate Indians for doing terrible things to the soldiers and them doing terrible things to the Indians. And so it deals with Christian Bale as one of these soldiers who's been in wars with Indians that have to bring an Indian to his burial grounds, or this Indian and his family to the burial grounds, the sacred grounds of this tribe. And I thought it was an interesting and kind of different look on a different side of, I guess you could call it post-traumatic stress, because it is him being a soldier, having fought Indians, who can't forgive Indians, but that might be a whole different situation entirely. But it handles that type of Western in a very different eyes, because you don't really hear about that in most Westerns, but this is more of a modern Western set in earlier times. The only issue I have with Hostels that keep it from being really, really great is it ultimately feels pretty structureless, to the point where it kind of drags and almost feels a little slow at times. Alright, my number 4 was the first movie I saw this year, and that is Insidious: The Last Key. I've been a fan of the Insidious franchise. This was no different. In fact, I would say this might be my second or maybe even third favorite of the 4. But honestly, I think all 4 of the Insidious movies probably have 4 stars or higher, and this is a 4-star movie for me. Even if there is a lot of jump scares, I thought the intensity, the suspense before the jump scare, and everything with the atmosphere in the house and the backstory of our main character of Lei Shin's is it Lei Shin? Sorry, I had a brain fart there. Lin Shaye. The whole backstory with her character, as at least was handled nice, and I thought it was directed well, acted well, lit well. The only thing keeping it from being great is some of the inconsistencies if you think about the rest of the Insidious franchise and how there's continuity errors caused by this one. Now, my number 3 was originally number 4 for a while. It was below Insidious: The Last Key. But then I rewatched it and found things that I loved about the technical aspects of the film, such as the camera work and the score and the editing. My number 3 is The Post. And look, I love Spotlight, and this does not compare to Spotlight. I also feel that this is one of the lower films that Steven Spielberg has done and directed, because I don't really see his imprint in this movie. I don't see his style, or maybe I'm just not seeing it. Maybe it is there and I'm just not seeing it. But even when Steven Spielberg makes a film that isn't as good as his classics, he still makes a solid film for the most part. And The Post is a very solid film, great actors, really great characters, and a very timely film despite the fact that it is set in an earlier time. It still feels very relevant today. But I won't go into any more detail because hopefully I'll review this tonight or tomorrow because I need to catch up. My number 2 is Molly's Game, and this is another film where the dialogue is amazing, the story is amazing, the characters are amazing, the acting is phenomenal. I was enthralled with this movie for the majority of it and loved almost every second of it, and I really loved the poker scenes, but this was also a film that I had to put down to the 4.5-star range because while all the things I said were impressive, the technical aspects were a little less impressive, such as the camera work and the score and a few other things. But who knows, maybe this is another movie that I'll bump up its score a little bit more when I eventually see it again. I've only seen this movie once, and when I saw it, I was completely engaged, ready to see every second of it, and I loved it. But let's face it, is there any other movie that I've reviewed so far that I've given 5 stars to? No, not yet. So, easily my favorite film of January 2018 is Paddington 2. In fact, its actual score that I have for it is so good that it might make the top 10 films of 2018 by the end of the year. Yeah, this might have a good shot at being the best film of the year for me. It sticks with the same formula as the first Paddington, so you could always argue that, oh, it's just the same movie, just detailed differently. Well, yeah, a lot of sequels are. But the good thing about Paddington 2 is it still has the heart of the first one, it still has the wit, the charm, the comedy of the first one. All the characters are amazing, the acting is good, the CGI is good. Everything is still whimsical and fun, and yes, it is one of the perfect family films you could go see. It has a good message and it has things that the adults could like as well, such as some of the humor, some of the references, such as classic film references. Yes, this is a pretty damn good film, and I enjoyed every second of it. So, did you bother to see any of these films or any films in January 2018? If so, what were your favorite films of this January? Go ahead and comment. And if you like this video and you want to see more, please subscribe and check out my movie reviews and countdowns of previous years or this year. As always, this is Bruce Gifford, and this was Just My Opinion.